morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good 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 morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
There's a guy who posts on X who's great, Godsad, and he talks about basically suicidal empathy. Mm-hmm. Like if there's so much empathy that you actually suicide yourself.
Yeah.
So that we've got civilizational suicidal empathy going on. And it's like, I believe in empathy. Like, I think you should care about other people, but you need to have empathy for civilization as a whole and not commit to a civilizational suicide.
Also, don't let someone use your empathy against you so they can completely control your state and then do an insanely bad job of managing it and never get removed.
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The empathy exploit. They're exploiting a bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. I think empathy is good, but you need to think it through and not just be programmed like a robot.
Right. Understand when empathy has been actually used as a tool.
Yes. It's weaponized empathy is the issue.
That's right.
There's a guy.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and we're on the 4 Liberty Network. Today's Monday, December 15th. If you have looked at your phone this morning, you know that the world feels heavier today. We have 2 stories dominating the news cycle. One is a tragedy in Hollywood. The other is a massacre in Sydney. And how we react to these 2 events tells you everything that you need to know about the difference between us and them. By now you've heard the news. Rob Reiner, the man who gave us Princess Bride and Spinal Tap, and the man who spent the last decade calling people like you and me Nazis, was found dead in his Los Angeles home last night alongside his wife, Michelle. Police are calling it a homicide, stab wounds. It's horrific. Now, let me tell you what you are not seeing today. You're not seeing parades on the streets of red states. You're not going to see conservatives popping champagne. You're not seeing stuff like Meathead got what he deserved. Because Rob Reiner, despite what he thought of people like you and me, despite the fact that he called for us to be jailed, silenced, and destroyed, we are civilized people here. We mourn the loss of human life. We mourn the loss of an artist, even one who hated us because of what he contributed to the American conversation. We're going to pray for his family, and that is what decency looks like. But now turn your eyes to Australia, because while we mourn a man who hated us, the left is busy making excuses for the people who actually killed us. Yesterday in Bondi Beach, the sun was shining. Families were gathering. They were celebrating Hanukkah, which is the festival of lights in the Jewish religion. And 2 gunmen, a father and a son, walked onto a beach with long guns, bolt-action rifles, and slaughtered 16 people. They killed a 12-year-old child. They killed Holocaust survivors. This was the deadliest terror attack in Australia in 30 years. And do you know what the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said about this? You can guess, of course. He called it a tragedy and warned against Islamophobia. He didn't scream for the deportation of the ideology that pulled the trigger. No, he's probably planning a unity walk right now. And here is the bitter, jagged pill that we're going to have to swallow this morning. Australia is the left's utopia. They gave up their guns in 1996. They said, if we just disarm all of the law-abiding citizens, we will be safe. Well, yesterday, the terrorists had guns and the victims had sand. The only reason more people didn't die is because a heroic fruit shop vendor tackled a gunman with his bare hands. And of course, because it's 2025 now, we get to see all of this going down because everybody's recording everything with their phones.
Oh!
There he is.
Oh!
Got him.
C'est un malade.
Oh mon gros! Oh!
Ouais, mais il y a son pote, il va se faire tirer dessus.
Now, here is the man. He's got him at gunpoint. He's got the bad guy at gunpoint. And for whatever reason, he chose not to finish it. Now, look at this. It looks like the Islamic terrorist is wearing body armor. Here comes the good guy, comes in, disarms him, grabs his gun. Now, there are a million reasons why he could have chosen not to shoot him. And there are a lot of accusations that are being flung at him saying, oh, well, he knew that he was Muslim too, and so he didn't shoot him. Or there's plenty of reasonable expectations, like he didn't know how to use the damn gun because, well, he's in Australia. They don't know how to point, gun, press, bang. You'd be surprised. And when you're in the moment, if you're not this guy and your heart's not racing and you're not getting an adrenaline dump, it can be really hard to judge somebody, but give him credit for trying. Although in America, you know what we call that? We call that a free kill. You won't get to do it like your deer. You won't get to take him home and string him up and gut him. We'll let the government in the corner do that. But Australia is the left's idea of a perfect civilized Western nation. This is what the left has in store for us here in the United States. So the government stripped Australians of their right to defend their families, imported people who want to kill them, and then when the shooting starts, their hope is that a fruit seller tackles them. So this is the liberal Suicide Pact. They import the terror, they disarm the victim, and then they lecture us about tolerance while they step over the bodies. We're not going to do that today. We're going to tell the truth. Kurt Schlichter is here today at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. He's not going to pull any punches. He says if this happened in Texas, the body count would be 0, maybe 2, the terrorists themselves, and he's right. Plus, we have Steve Gruber here on a revolutionary plan from Rand Paul to break the healthcare monopoly. We're always trying to get new guests on the show. So we're going to have Steve Gruber in here this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central, and that's going to be about 15 minutes from now. Jon Miltimore on why Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders are trying to destroy your credit cards. But first, we're going to pray for the Reiners, and then we arm ourselves because the world is not safe and the government is not coming to save us. All right, I've got a monologue prepared for you guys this morning to start off. But before we do, don't forget to be like Dad Bod Baboon. He is hero. Dad Bod Baboon in the chat already started up the unlocking of the bonus content when he posted, waiting for CNN's honest and fair take. The shooters were white MAGA, white Republican, white supremacist, toxic white males using military-style automatic rifle, AR-15 weapons of mass destruction, white. Okay, you're actually not far off because the CNN was blaming on another shooting, this time at Brown University in the United States. But here's CNN talking. Here's CNN's firearms expert on this.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, hit this hotel room in Coventry and took this man into custody. What we're told from law enforcement sources now is that they seized 2 firearms from this 24-year-old suspect. One of those firearms, we are told, was equipped with a laser sight device. This has significance because, number one, that's a fairly sophisticated device for a handgun where when you aim it, a red dot goes where you want to target, and if you fire at that point, the bullet goes where the dot is. It's the kind of things used mostly by professionals, tactical people, military people. The other aspect of it, though, is it it indicates that this was no random shooting. What we know is this individual traveled from the Midwest, apparently, obtained this hotel room, likely had to obtain a rented car to go from there, the 20-minute drive to the target location. Authorities have told us that he is not a student at Brown University, but that doesn't specifically mean he never was a student or
a lasery pointy thing that's like a military laser that goes with the beam and you point it and then the gun shoots with the... Not a laser sight. Exactly, it's a laser sight. Oh my God. Who could use these things? What do you think I got on my AEDC? Plus, you get the tritium sights in the back, you know, so that it's night. Because all the bad stuff's probably going to happen at night, unless you're at Bondi Beach, Australia, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. Now, if I were a big, rich media network, guys, I would have somebody. I would play a commercial here, and I would have, you know, the sales team would talk to the marketing team, and then I would play a commercial for you, and that way, me, the host of the news show, wouldn't have to sell products to try and build a libertarian network like I'm trying to do. One day we will have a sales team and we will have a marketing team and they will talk to each other and they will make amazing commercials. I'll still do live reads, but what am I advertising for? Somebody else? No, I'm advertising for myself directly. The Wake Up America show monetizes this show. The way we monetize it is to offer you incentives. So we created a 3-phase rocket of fun, I like to call it. And this rocket of fun has 3 phases, which the first is, if we raise $100 on today's show, then we will unlock phase 1 of that bonus content. So the rocket phase 1 launches and you get a 5-minute mini documentary that we have produced for you, typically in the style of Legos. So it's fun, it's interesting, and it's informative. And you can watch that instead of commercials if we raise $100 of bonus content. So Dad Bod Baboon, he gave $5 earlier. That's $5 towards phase 1. At $150, things get weird. And we unlock a game show mode where you get to play for real prizes from our shop. $150 is a reasonable sum. If a few people go to forlibertyshop.com, that's the show's official shop. If you go to forlibertyshop.com, you're going to find incredible deals on our delicious Founding Flavors coffee. And if you've run out, it's time to stock up and click the subscribe button to have it delivered to your door on a monthly basis. Now, when you go to forlibertyshop.com, like a creepy little spy, I get to watch. I like to watch. All right, Austin, calm down. It's too early. And when you go to forlibertyshop.com, I like to watch where you pop up on the screen. As you can see, we have some people in Louisiana this morning and in Tennessee visiting. How come nobody's in Missouri or Oklahoma? Pop up on that live view. Go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. And here's my recommendation. I've been pounding the pavement while I hang out. You know, on the holidays, I do spend a little bit of downtime and take a little time for myself, guys. I know it's not supposed to be, but I've been selling my coffee to the Battlefield 6 teams, guys. So don't let the Battlefield 6 guys over on Xbox outpace you in terms of supporting the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network by buying our favorite coffees. Now, I put together a bundle discount for the top 4 sellers because I know that people want to have like the whole collection, and it's an amazing gift to get for somebody. $89.99 will get you all 4, and that's delivered. But here's the thing. If that's a little too rich for your blood, I get it. Why don't you drink delicious Founding Flavors coffee with your family on New Year's Eve morning so you can sleep off the hangover and have a delicious cup of coffee? Just get the AP for Liberty's favorite. Add that bundle to your cart. Decide which you would like, whole bean or ground. Add it to your cart. Get the top 3 Founding Flavors. You won't regret it. They're the best coffee. Head to forlibertyshop.com, and when you make purchases during the live show, then you guys will be able to will watch the phase 1, phase 2, and maybe even phase 3 of the bonus content. Merry Christmas. I'm such a dyke head, says Drew Van Ruckle. Good morning, Drew. Thank you very much for your gift. We appreciate you. All right, back to the news. So if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, I mean, you know that I'm a libertarian. I believe in maximizing freedom and the individual, but I'm also a realist. And being a realist means looking at the world as it is, not as the coexist bumper on the bumper sticker on the Subaru wants it to be. And right now, I think that the world is screaming a lesson at us from the sands of Bondi Beach, Australia. And the lesson is this: the West is currently engaged in a suicide pact. We have a contract that says, Clause 1, we will import people who hate our civilization. We will disarm the citizens who would defend that civilization. And then 3, when the inevitable slaughter happens, we will blame the hardware instead of the hatred. Now let's look at the facts of this story, not the spin, the cold, hard, bloody facts of what happened. On Sunday, December 14th, it was the first night of Hanukkah, the Hanukkah by the Sea celebration. So families were gathered at Bondi Beach, one of the most iconic, beautiful places on earth. It's supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be a paradise. But at 6:47 p.m., that paradise turned into hell. 2 men stormed the event. It wasn't a lone wolf shooter. This wasn't a mental health crisis. This was a family business. The shooters have been identified as Sajid Akram, 50 years old, and his son, Naveed Akram, 24 years old. Think about that, right? A father teaching his son that the greatest thing that he could do with his life was to murder Jews on a beach. They opened fire for 10 terrifying minutes. By the time the shooting stopped, 15 people were dead, and that includes a 10-year-old child. It includes a Holocaust survivor who thought that they had escaped this evil decades ago. 40 people were rushed to the hospitals, screaming in pain. Now, here is the bombshell that the Australian media is trying to bury on the story. The left loves to tell us that Australia is the gold standard of gun control. They tell us that if we just had their laws, their background checks, their licenses, we would be safe. Well, guess what? The shooter, Sajid Akram, was a licensed gun owner. He followed the rules. He jumped through the hoops. Authorities confirmed today that he held a recreational hunting license, and he had been a legal gun owner since 2015. He met every single eligibility criteria. The gold standard of background checks, he passed them. The genuine reason requirement, he passed it. The fit and proper person test, he passed it. The laws didn't stop him from getting 6 guns. The laws only stopped the victims from having one. And let's talk about the weapons. Let's talk about this. The media wants you to believe they used weapons of war. They didn't. They used shotguns and a bolt-action rifle. These aren't assault weapons or assault rifles or anything that the left wants to use to make these things sound scary. These are grandpa's hunting rifles because in Australia, of course, semi-automatics were banned back in 1996. So what happened? They used 19th century technology. I'm telling you, bolt-action technology, very old now. And for 10 minutes, they hunted innocent people like animals. If this was in Texas or in Florida, the shooter gets dropped. Because in America, we understand that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And the good guy who tried to stop them, God bless him, thank him. We're grateful for him stepping up. The fruit seller, we're told, is also a Muslim.
Oh!
C'est un malade.
Oh mon gros!
While yes, it was nice that he attempted to stop him, this didn't stop him because he didn't shoot him and he didn't kill him and he didn't end the threat and he went off and he got another gun and he continued to kill. It is a sad reality that we have to face. The violence that is inherent in the system. The crowd was helpless. They were sheep in a pen. The Australian government made it illegal for them to carry the tools of their survival. In New South Wales, self-defense is explicitly not a valid reason to own a gun. Think about the morality of that. The government tells you you have no right to save your own life. And the hero wasn't the police, it was this fruit seller guy. It wasn't a gun-free zone sign that stopped him. This 43-year-old guy didn't have a weapon, but he had nerves of steel. God bless him for trying. There's a picture here of a police officer, a female police officer with her hands in the air. Look at this. Look at this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. While the fruit seller goes on and disarms the first guy. Should have taken him out. Now I'm going to do a quick divergence here, and then I've got my interview with Steve Gruber coming up in just a few minutes. All right, I want to pivot, right? I want to have an uncomfortable conversation with my own tribe here. I want to talk to libertarians because for the last 20 years since 9/11, the libertarian movement has had a massive blind spot when it comes to radical Islam. And I understand why. All right, we watched the Bush administration lie us into the Iraq war. We watched the Patriot Act destroy our privacy. We watched the war on terror become a bloated, tyrannical slush fund. And because we hated the state's response to terrorism, we tricked ourselves into sympathizing with the terrorists. We fell into this trap of thinking, well, if the U.S. government is bad, then the people fighting the U.S. government must be the underdogs. We started making excuses like they only hate us because we're over there, or it's just blowback. But if you look at Bondi Beach, ask yourself, was that blowback? Did those Jewish families celebrating Hanukkah invade Iraq? Did the 10-year-old child bomb a village in Yemen? No. They were killed because of an ideology, radical Islam, that is fundamentally, irreconcilably at war with liberty itself. We are the people who believe in individual rights. We're the party of liberty. We're the party of free speech. Sharia law is the antithesis of everything that we believe in. You cannot be a libertarian and defend a worldview that believes that women are property. You can't defend a worldview that thinks gays should be thrown off rooftops. You can't be a libertarian and defend a worldview that believes that blasphemy is punishable by death, or that simply existing while being Jewish should also get the death sentence. Being anti-war doesn't mean being pro-jihad, right? The Iraq war may have been a mistake, okay, but that blunder doesn't lead us to sympathize with violent religious zealots who are as anti-libertarian as it gets. And if you invite it into your country, if you open your borders and say, come on in, we're tolerant, you're not importing diversity. You are importing a virus that will eat the hosts. Sajid and Naveed Akram didn't want liberty. They wanted submission. And when a libertarian refuses to call that out because they're afraid of sounding like a neocon, they're cutting their own throat. Next, Steve Gruber. What if you could go to Costco and with your 20-gallon jar of peanut butter, you could order a side of health insurance. Would you buy it? I'm pretty sure I would. What else would you buy at that? Here's all the best deals at Costco. We'll be right back. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching the Wake Up America show, and this is the For Liberty Network.
Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot.
You know, the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield in 2024 got $14 million, which maybe you feel bad for him because the year before he got $15.7 million. He got a pay cut in 24. But the way we do this, Obamacare is a failure for you, for me, for everybody. It's a disaster. And the only way they prop it up, and that's what they're doing, propping it up, is with taxpayer money. So if you go to health savings accounts, send the money directly to the people, and then bring in Rand Paul's idea, which I think is brilliant, by the way, and give Costco or Sam's Club the ability to take millions, tens of millions of members and say, listen, we'll negotiate with United Health. We'll negotiate with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Suddenly you've got strength in numbers. Look, when you look at the healthcare system now, and I'm out here, look, I just looked at the premium increase for next month, $500 a month. We don't have some fancy plan. We have a plan in case the house burns down. We can save ourselves. And everybody's seen this. Every year of Obamacare, the rates have gone up dramatically, every single year. And the Democrat solution? Do more of the same. Spend more taxpayer money when we're $38 trillion in debt. It is insanity by definition, Austin.
It certainly is. And honestly, I have to confess, Steve, I hope people don't get too mad at me here when I say that I take the healthcare subsidies because I didn't know any better, right? I've got a young family. I got onto the Obamacare because here's the thing. There's golden handcuffs in this economy. You go and you work for an employer 9 to 5. We all get fat and happy and eat our Christmas goose if we've got insurance coming through our employers. But for people like myself, a small, raising a family, getting out there, trying to buy health insurance, what options do you have? They've done it. Obamacare broke the market. They broke the market so that young families like ourselves trying to have insurance for our babies and stuff, we got on the subsidies, and now they're like the Republicans are the ones taking away. I mean, I don't agree with Senator Josh Hawley voting to extend the Obamacare subsidies. I don't think they should exist, but I'm kind of like, gulp. This is going to really screw us.
You mentioned having a baby, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so here's a story from a guy who was on my program this week, Paul Siegert.
Yeah.
He worked for the NSA as a Russian analyst, and then he got into the insurance industry. His job is he goes into companies, including hospitals, believe it or not, and he tells them, okay, here's your way to save money and get better results from your insurance coverage, right? He said to me, I did a documentary 2 years ago on the healthcare system. And he said to me when I first met him, he goes, I worked studying the Russians for the NSA. Then I came into the insurance industry. And I can assure you, Gruber, the insurance industry is far dirtier than the Russians. And I'm thinking, wow, that sure is reassuring. But he was serious. And he said, look, he just had a baby, right? He's in Tennessee. $28,000 was the L&D bill for the labor and delivery. $28,000. He said, no. I don't want to use my insurance because he had an insurance plan and his out-of-pocket was about $7,000. He goes, I want the cash price. The cash price was $2,800. It went from $28,000 to $2,800. Now, wait a second. There's something wrong with the system, Austin, where you've got so many different pricing schemes, and they are schemes. They're not real. An MRI should cost what an MRI costs. But, if you've got this insurance, it's this much. This insurance, this much. You get the bronze plan, silver plan, gold plan. Oh, you've got cash. Oh, we like cash. You're going to pay today. Oh, it's cheap. Here it is. That's not right. Look, an MRI costs what an MRI costs. If I go buy a gallon of gas, it costs what it costs today. If I go buy a car, it costs what it costs. You can't have 100 different prices for the same thing. It's insane. Again, there it is. The definition of insanity is our healthcare system. It's all over the place. And Obamacare is an absolute abject failure.
Moral hazard. It's the system is eating itself. It's tearing itself apart because one party takes on more risk while the other party bears the cost. One's going to engage in riskier behavior. So we create this whole underclass, Steve. It's not people like, most people aren't entrepreneurs trying to do what me and my wife are doing. Most people they're clinging to a job, trying to get a job, trying to make ends meet. And I'm glad that the White House is getting the message apparently on affordability. I hope they laser in on that, laser focus on that. Because I do think that Republicans are kind of getting off track with their economics. There's a little bit too much kind of kissing up to Zoran Mamdani and Elizabeth Warren and the Republican Party these days. And I don't like some of the things I hear about all the things they're saying about Ronald Reagan, because quite frankly, I do think that free market economics should be a fundamental underpinning of the Obamacare at its beginning was flawed. It has to be because Obamacare can't work. If you could buy fire insurance once the house is on fire, Steve, who would buy fire insurance?
It's no good at that. But look, every single promise that Barack Obama made to ram this thing through. By the way, he did a parliamentary trick to get it through in the first place. And to ram Obamacare through with not a single Republican vote. Oh, you can keep your doctor. Wrong. Oh, you can keep your plan. Wrong. Oh, we're going to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Wrong. It's all wrong. It was designed to do exactly one thing, fail. So that they can usher in this country what they've done in Canada and the EU, and that's single-payer health care, because it's so wonderful there, right? Ask any Canadian that's in America getting a hip replacement because they don't have to wait a year. It's a disastrous system, but what it creates is control. Look, I'll go back to Social Security. It was never about Social Security. It was never about anything. It was about buying votes. That's what it was about then. It's what it's about now, because every election cycle, you hear them come out, oh, you vote for those Republicans, those rotten Republicans. They're going to take away your Social Security. They're going to take away your benefits. And now it's going to be, they're going to take away your health care. That's the whole game. But that is the entire damn game right there, to buy votes with taxpayer money.
So we got squishy Republicans and we got corrupt Democrats. If you look at the Wall Street Journal, the Wall Street Journal Politics says Democrats struggle to push back on Minnesota fraud scandal that only grows. And this system in Minnesota is the perfect example of why we can't have nice things. You want to have a little bit of a welfare state. And if you give a mouse a cookie, Steve, what are they going to want on Christmas morning?
More cookies.
Yeah.
More cookies. And here's the thing. It's not just Minnesota. Same thing propping up now in Maine and in my home state of Michigan. And it all originates primarily, not exclusively, but primarily from Somalian immigrants. 87 people arrested in Minnesota thus far. 78 of them Somalian immigrants. So it's not exclusively their domain, but it's primarily their domain. They've figured out how to game the system. And the idea that we're not paying for illegals to get health care. Wrong. We certainly are. And we see it every day. Look, they went through. You heard the Speaker of the House talk about this, Mike Johnson. He said, we put through 20 accounts to see what would happen. 18, they're all fraudulent. 18 of the 20 got through and are still collecting benefits. Just as a test run, 90% went through. I mean, that's no way to run a railroad. My father would call it a blivet. A blivet is 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound sack, all right? That's what it is. And that's what Obamacare is. It's a blivet.
Yeah. Just anecdotally, Steve, I'm talking to people these days, and just the normies, because people call me a normie libertarian, which means that I'm not like high all the time or like constantly shooting guns. But when I talk to the normies, when I'm at Ace Hardware here, I live in Jefferson City, Missouri, so it's actually kind of a rural state capital. Most people, they're kind of like, they're disconnected from these pie in the sky policy debates, these giant things. They really, what they're looking at is their bottom line every day. And I kind of, sometimes I struggle to relate because what we do in the media is so artificial feeling so much. But the Christmas season has brought me back a little bit into sort of, real world land. When you go out amongst people and you talk to them about the issues that matter, man, it's pretty simple. If Republicans don't want to have a washout in the midterms next year, that affordability thing, prosecuting the fraud, and honestly, I don't have any racial hatred in my heart, but I think most Americans, when I talk to them, are like, no, we can't let Islam dominate American society. No, we can't. No, we can't. We're not going to let Christianity be erased while we advance Kwanzaa, which was created by some Maryland guy named Emmett Till.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. I got good news for you on the affordability thing. Look, the government shutdown failed. Their arguments against the border failed. Their attempts to, undermine Trump at every turn has failed. So the Democrats have latched onto this affordability thing, and it resonated with Mom Donnie voters in New York. Okay, so maybe that cancer can be contained. Maybe it metastasizes. I don't know. But here's what I do know. I got a little inside baseball for you. Donald Trump has been talking to some friends of mine to craft his message before he goes out on the road in January. Donald Trump is going to put himself on the ballot. He may not be on the ballot. Democrats will say he's not on the ballot. He is going to very much make himself the center of the election in 2026. And he's taking his argument about the economy to the people. He just started it in Pennsylvania. You saw his first stop. Now he's going forward, and he's going to go all over this country, and he's going to make sure that the midterm elections are solid for the Republicans. Look, gas in Missouri, the average right now, according to AAA, I just popped it up, $2.58 in Missouri, right?
Yeah.
Good news. In Texas and Oklahoma, it's $2.35. A lot of stations selling for under $2 a gallon now. That is good news. Is it the whole answer? No, but it's a good part of it.
It
good
is.
Energy policy is brilliant.
The energy policy is key. China's just doubled their nuclear reactors, and we're looking like idiots with, Europe is like celebrating with videos of them demolishing their nuclear power. Artificial intelligence is a literal revolution happening right now in this country. And honestly, I think a lot of Americans are asleep on this, Steve. I tell you, I teach classes on AI, and most Americans are not using it, and we are going to get left in the dust. It's kind of like Bitcoin or the early days of the internet going on right now. So I think that the message with Trump is on in some ways, and in other ways it's a little bit off, because yes, gasoline is going down, but there are other really important staples of the economy that are not going down. Listen, Steve, nobody's going to be able to fit in those. No fat 6'3" Bubba from Jefferson City is going to be able to drive so Japanese truck. No tiny Toyota to solve the crisis of affordability of vehicles in this country.
It'll ride down the road something like this.
Yeah, we're bigger here than they make. They make Americans bigger than they make Japanese. It's what helped us to win the war.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. We were just laughing about that in the office today. Who's going to buy this little teeny truck? I'm not. I drive a full-size pickup truck with a diesel engine.
How
I
tall
like
are
it,
you?
by the
How
way.
tall are you, Steve?
6'2".
Oh, well, you're taller than me. I'm 5'11", and I still won't fit in a vehicle like that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But no, affordability is about more than that one metric. And if Trump goes to New York to campaign for Elise Stefanik, that might not help Elise Stefanik, right? And Trump's popular in certain ways in certain areas. We can't, I think we should not abandon the mission that got Trump elected in the first place. That coalition, that MAGA coalition, I think it's fraying at the edges. And there are some bad actors out there, Steve, trying to tear MAGA apart. I mean, what do you think about all these people attacking Erica Kirk after she watched her husband brutally assassinated?
Yeah, here's the thing. Let's back up for a second because this is really important. In the 2022 elections in Michigan, swing state, and I consider Michigan to be ground zero for the midterm elections and for the presidential election in 2028. By the way, a guy that agrees with me on that is Donald Trump. I've talked to him about it. He considers the way Michigan goes, the country goes. I don't think he's wrong about that. And so when you focus on the real world needs and issues of people here, you connect with the rest of the country. So you're right, gas is down, but other things are concerning. We've got jobs that are going away in some places, increasing in other areas. There's a lot of focus and a lot of work to be done. But look, so much damage was done over 4 years by the Biden administration. You can't just wave a magic wand and make it all go away. It takes time, it takes effort. But what I was getting at, in 2022 in the midterms, 1 million people that voted for Donald Trump in this state alone in 2020 did not show up at the polls in 2022. You cannot have only Trump voters. And that's why he's taking his show on the road again, because people cannot just be voting, well, Donald Trump's on the ballot, he's not on the ballot, so I'm not voting. Donald Trump cannot do the job of putting America first if he doesn't have the House and the Senate. And I'm really disgusted with Indiana. Look, guys, you've been gamed all over the country in California, Illinois, Massachusetts, and you guys are too cowardly to do what needs to be done in Indiana, a bright red state. Indiana, you've watched enough election returns. About 3 seconds after the polls closed in Indiana, they declare it for whoever's running for president as a Republican every single time. And they don't have the courage or the political will to go make sure that they can get 2 more seats in Congress. That's idiotic, frankly. You've got to have Donald Trump to get the support. That's why he's taking the show on the road. He has to. He can talk about the economy. And look, the markets are up. Gas is down. Beef is too expensive. Eggs are about the same. I get all that. But 6 months from now, with lower interest rates, better energy prices, I think it's a whole different economic view 6 months from now. So you get to June, July of 2026, I think we might be just cooking along pretty good. Look, President Trump's numbers are coming up right now. They bottomed out, boom, they're bouncing back up. If he can deliver a coherent economic message to people in Missouri and Jefferson City, to people in East Lansing, Michigan, to people in Madison, Wisconsin, to people in Phoenix, Arizona, that will bring it home. But they've got to have some results. We start with healthcare. You got to have some results there. You got to have some results elsewhere. But 6 months in politics, that's like 3 lifetimes in politics. I think he's going to be okay. I do. They count him out every single time.
If you can get any message that way, there is the secret to the American prosperity. We could explode past China. We have so much untapped potential, so much drag on this economy. If we want to go high speed, the answer is right in front of us, Steve. Who is name maybe the top 2 or 3 foreign leaders, foreign presidents? Who are top the foreign presidents that Trump pals around with the most? Who does he like the most? Who is he really embraced? Think South America, right? Javier Milei. That guy is pouring gasoline on a fire right now with an economy by doing what? What we were promised with Doge. What it showed is that the deep state is more powerful in the United States than any power on earth. I'm sorry, Steve. The deep state's more powerful than Trump. Trump's fighting the best that he can. But I simply think we've created such an entrenched system that even the president of the United States is not in charge. I mean, he can't even fire these executive agencies. Maybe the Supreme Court is going to step in and slaughter and say that the president can fire these people. That'll be a step, right? But you got people in Northern Virginia right now, Steve, who are fighting against his foreign policy, and
every step of the way,
and they win.
You talked about squishy Republicans a moment ago. You mentioned squishy Republicans. There are a lot of Republicans in Congress that smile and nod when President Trump comes by. Hey, nice to see you, and shake his hand, whatever. But they're just trying to wait him out because they are squishy and they're more aligned with Elizabeth Warren, like you mentioned, or Bernie Sanders, or whatever socialist mental rot they have. They're just waiting out Trump because they don't like Trump. These squishy Republicans, they don't like him at all. You know, Don Bacon's of the world, people like that. Of course, he quit. But the point is, you've got Republicans that are Republican in name only, that are just nodding and smiling and passing the time and hoping that they can get back to Washington as normal so they can turn their $174,000 job in the House into $25 million like Marjorie Taylor Greene did. Or
Boy, what a weird situation, Steve.
Very weird.
What a weird scenario. You know what's awkward though is that like the conspiracy theories have kind of taken over on the right. Unfortunately, we're kind of like guys like yourself who are a little bit more with your feet on the ground, and guys like ourselves. We're not the loudest voices right now. And so I think that she got confused and she thought that the paranoid schizophrenics online were a majority.
They're not.
They're not. And that in the real world, when I go to Republican meetings, there aren't people who are talking about the chemtrails and all that stuff. So I think she made a heinous error because of online campaigns that convinced her.
Chemtrails.
Yeah.
You know, I take calls on Friday mornings on this program from all over the country. And, you know, invariably I get somebody talking to me about chemtrails. I'm like, you know, I don't spend any time talking about chemtrails, and think what you want. You know, you can think that I'm in the dark or I'm this or that. Look, I don't have time for that. So
you don't buy into the Jewish conspiracy theories that like,
I don't.
You don't believe that Ted Cruz is being manipulated through his Christian Zionism, and that we need to get closer to Qatar and you don't think that? No.
I don't. I think you said it to begin with. Islam is not compatible with this document I keep right here, my well-worn United States Constitution. We are guaranteed a Republican form of government, period. It's guaranteed in this document, crafted by some old white guys a long time ago. But you know what? They were well-educated. They understand human nature. They understand the nature of things and the nature of the world we live in. And they crafted a document that covered pretty much all of those things very well. There was no better educated person in the history of this country than Thomas Jefferson on pretty much all metrics. He knew what he was talking about when he was 33 years old. And he crafted the Declaration of Independence, knew exactly what he was talking about. And that's why we were given this gift of a Republican form of government, not a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's a Republican form of representative government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And it's remarkable how ignorant so many people are. I said this, it's in the Constitution. It's like, have you ever read it? Or other people, you mentioned Christianity. Well, the Bible says, and Jesus would. Have you ever actually read the book? I hear people say the most ridiculous things. Have you ever actually cracked the book? Because that doesn't appear anywhere in there, right?
Jesus is the reason for the season, as they say here in Jefferson City, Missouri. Steve, God, you're a hell of a smart guy. 200 IQ. I think the audience is going to demand you come back. I hope that in your busy schedule, we might be able to do this again. Is there anything,
I'd love to.
Is there anything else in this topic of conversation that maybe I cut you off and you needed to say, or would you like to plug or share with us anything that you'd like to share? You got a book you'd like to share, or?
I got Gruber merch. You can go to stevegruber.com. Look, you can follow me online, all the social media platforms, all the regular usual suspects. You can find that. stevegruber.com, a pretty good website. We've got a lot of great stories on there. Liberty Page, myself, she's great. She's sarcastic. I love her as one of my writers. But look, here's what I'd like to say. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I'm older than you, young man. It's okay. But not on my watch. I'm not just going to sit here and we have a world that's run by entertainment. You're distracted by your phone, by your computer, by the sports on TV, by the PS5. Look, set that stuff aside for a minute. Read the Bible more often and pay attention to what's happening out here in the world, whether it's Jefferson City or East Lansing or wherever it may be. You have a country that's really on the precipice of disaster. And if you don't get involved in your local neighborhood to start with, you're going to lose it. And then you're going to have to explain to your kids and grandkids what you did to screw it up. So don't let that happen. Work hard, roll up your sleeves, be an American, work harder, be better. That's a fact.
And for that, the studio audience went wild. Steve Gruber. Follow him over on X. Hey, Steve, have a wonderful day and a Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Nice having time with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll talk to Steve Gruber again very soon. What did you think? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. All right, when we come back, the Wake Up America show continues. Our quest for freedom. is endless. The revolution continues. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
We don't want to speculate on what the factors are that have contributed to this awful tragedy that seems to be of a huge scale. You know, the fact that we know that 10 people have lost their lives today is utterly horrendous. And, you know, my heart breaks for those people and their families and for the communities affected across the world. I think it's important to note that the escalation of this narrative of who we're against and how much we want to divide each other and how much we want to attack each other, that is really at the core of a lot of the problems that we have in the country at the moment. And I firmly believe that people are good and that given the opportunity, they will look out for each other. And I just want to say that as much as possible, we should try and detoxify the way that we think of people who aren't like us, because our diversity in this country is our strength. And I firmly am on the side of working together and celebrating our difference, because, you know, I was a community organizer a long time ago, and the strongest campaigns that we ever worked on were about bringing people of different faiths and different worldviews and different backgrounds together to find what we had in common. And at times like this, it makes me think of, you know, what happened with Jo Cox and her speech and that mantra that she had about more in common. We have more in common than that divides us. And that is the most true statement we can think of at very difficult, testing and anxiety-inducing times. And, you know, I wish the best for everybody watching who is feeling anxious, and I hope we do get some formal news soon.
Suicidal empathy. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. This is the choice that we face at the end of 2025. In 2026, do we choose the civilized path of self-defense, the path where we recognize that evil exists and we arm decent people to meet it? Or, like the leftists that we were just listening to, we can choose a suicide pact. We can choose the path where we open the borders to our enemies, where we disarm our own children, and then light candles and sing Imagine while the Muslim terrorist reloads. I choose the gun. I choose the ability to shoot back. And if that makes me uncivilized to the elites in Sydney or to the pacifists in Washington, then so be it. Because I'd rather be an armed barbarian who is alive than a civilized victim in a body bag. Who's with me? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We've got Jon Miltimore joining us live here in 5 minutes. We're going to be talking to him a little bit this morning about the credit card cap, a perfect example of uniparty populism gone wrong. Then we're going to pivot to him in the second half of his interview with the tip tax disaster, which hits small businesses pretty hard. We're going to talk about that with Jon Miltimore, both of those topics today from the American Institute of Economic Research. It's Mondays with Miltimore. Jon Miltimore joins us live in a little bit less than 5 minutes. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed Steve Gruber this morning conversing about Senator Rand Paul's health care fix proposal. Quest Fanning says he's popping more in the till, folks, dropping off some cash. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise.
Please. Can you suck it?
Excuse me? What did he say? What did he say? We have all sorts of bonuses ready for you to unlock on today's show. Every show is like a game show, and we even include a game show at the end of the show if you want to win real prizes in a fun little competition we have. But that competition only unlocks with phase 2 of the bonus content. We still have to unlock phase 1 of the bonus content. Every day when we unlock the bonus content, I say to myself and I say to Brad, show's on next month. Can keep the lights on. But I'll ask you that when you think about what you're doing, I know that when you buy coffee at 4libertyshop.com, that's capitalism. That's not charity. We give you delicious coffee. You give us delicious money. Money, 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 money. But at forlibertyshop.com, when you're making purchases there, you're also funding the next phase of the revolution. If you want to keep liberty ideals alive, we have to step in and we have to fund them. We do it in a way where we don't just say, hey, you don't get anything for your money. You're just going to donate it to us, and maybe you'll get a little bit of a tax write-off. But at forlibertyshop.com, when you visit our shop and you make a purchase, you're actually helping to fund not just the next phase of the liberty movement in media, but you're also funding a beautiful, smoking hot, redhead libertarian baby-making factory. What can you get for the person who has it all? Well, when you go to forlibertyshop.com, you'll find things here that you will not find anywhere else. Our latest product drops. Stephanie just put gift cards in the shop. So if you've got a patriotic founding father lover in your life and you get them a nice For Liberty Shop gift card, that's a great gift. We sold our first one the other day, and thank you, Stephanie, for dropping those off. All of the latest product drops are available when you click that founding fathersy looking guy at forlibertyshop.com. We've got all kinds of great sweaters, embroidered sweatshirts, t-shirts, hoodies, as well as our coffee line. But at forlibertyshop.com, you can get your Second Amendment defending shirts protected by We the People. We the People. Somebody hit us up on our AI robot that I have installed in the shop. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see I've got the little help button. It's it's our new little tool, the AI robot. You can use it today if you want, but I will be monitoring. Over at forlibertyshop.com, somebody went to the AI robot and asked if we had this in a mug, and I got the notification on my phone, and I instantly went to my computer, and I made that on a mug for him. That's the level of customer service you get. Caveat emptor, Austin still has yet to suck. That's right, baby. Keep unlocking that bonus content. We've raised 9 plus, I think, 25 over there in the shop. Somebody just went and got themselves some Liberty or Death notebook. Very cool. What a great gift. Proud American grandpa. Freedom never retires. Very funny. forlibertyshop.com. And grab a couple of boxes of coffee while you're there. The savings will add up. Every single box that you throw in there, up to 5, will save you quite a bit of money. So thank you so much for your financial support, guys. If we raise $100, phase 1 unlocks $150. Phase 2, the bonus content game unlocks. Phase 3, I have to sing a Christmas carol. So maybe you don't want to do that, but we'll see. Jon Miltimore's on live and on standby. I'm going to go get him. I'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show. Be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Don't go away.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, A band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream.
Stand your ground, men. Stand your ground.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. That brilliant scene that made us all laugh when I was a child, Princess Bride came out, created by none other than Rob Reiner, slain Hollywood icon. Rob Reiner and his wife were found with their throats slit, with their daughter telling cops that a dangerous relative should be suspect, according to a report that came out just this morning. The legendary director and wife of 36 years, Michelle Reiner, were found Sunday by their daughter Romy, who immediately told the cops the killer was another family member. He was the director of A Few Good Men. He was a star of All in the Family. Director Rob Reiner has passed away. Joining us now to discuss that and many other things, Jon Miltimore from the American Institute of Economic Research. Good morning, John. Some somber and difficult and challenging news for the season of lights, the festival of lights. The Hanukkah season just kicked off. We're really looking at a difficult holiday season, John, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was talking with someone else this morning, and the news is just so sad right now. Like everything is terrible, and they say in the news business, if it bleeds, it leads. But it just seems like there's a whole number of bad stories. Rob Reiner was a guy, he was a hell of a director. Like you forget, he went on an amazing run there. The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, and you could mix in several others in there. He was funny. He knew film. He had some crazy politics. And, I think, we all saw him on Fox News and things like when he'd go off on his tirades. He was a great filmmaker.
He was a horrible crime and seemed to be a crime of passion from a family member. At least that's what the daughter is alleging here. Probably the meta story for this, John, that you'll see, at least the one that we should cover, why should we talk about this, is because you're probably not going to see a lot of conservatives celebrating someone who wanted us dead, John, Rob Reiner would have thought that you and I were Nazis and called us Nazis because we disagreed with him. But I'm not going to go out there and dance on his grave or do anything other than wince at this painful tragedy. which I think is probably what separates people like us from people like them, because we saw what happened in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, it's been nothing but bad news after bad news after bad news this year, every month it seems. And yet I don't see a lot of, I mean, James Woods is not out there as an actor talking smack about Rob Reiner. Even Kevin Sorbo, as hard right as he is, he's not saying anything evil or horrible or terrible. Is there a moral difference between us and the left, John?
You know, well, I would say this. You can find some conservatives on there doing what you just described. Like, I was peeking around on Twitter. I don't think most of them are. I don't think Kevin Sorbo and James Woods are. These are people I really don't know. But there's some accounts saying, you know, like already scoring some political points on this. I think we just need to resist that impulse. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. And what's interesting is, you know, Reiner himself was asked after Charlie Kirk's death. He said, "What, you know," by his Piers Morgan, asked him, what is your response to this? And Rob Reiner said, "I'm horrified by it." Right. So this idea that there's, you know, a black and white difference, in that, you know, conservatives and libertarians, you know, are abhorred by violence, and the leftists celebrate it when their guys, you know, you know, let's be careful about, you know, painting with a broad brush there, because Reiner himself said, "This is nothing anyone should ever celebrate." He was horrified by it. I would say all humans are going to have that impulse, right? Like when it's this is something I tell people, you know, in friends, family, that tribalism brain, like when your brain starts to go tribal in this way, it does take away our humanity. Like, and we can all hear that a little bit when Rob Reiner, I heard what happened. First, somebody told me like he died in a fire, because I think the, you know, Los Angeles Fire Department is the first to respond, so somebody's confused. And then you're hearing this, and your first impulse is, well, he could be, you know, something negative. Everything, I think that's a normal reaction for people. Resist it internally, and certainly then that's going to help you resist to go you know, do what happened in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk situation, where people are applauding it, defending it, because that is. I'm still stunned that we live in a country where people were doing that and thought it was okay and defending it. No, when a, you know, someone loses their life in any fashion, but especially a horrific fashion, and your impulse is to go, you know, into politics immediately and celebrate or defend it or rationalize it in some way, it's a sick reaction. So people should just resist that.
Okay, well, it feels like, you know, I understand your call not to devolve into tribalism, but whether or not you like it, John, people who believe in the fundamental premises of individualism and libertarianism and liberty, we are a tribe. And therefore, it's time for us to take stock of our tribe. What are we saying? What are we doing? Right? You said that you saw some people out there who were saying heinous things about Rob Reiner, who were dancing on his grave. Can you name any of them?
I wanted to say I saw him dancing on his grave. You can find people that were already scoring political points saying, "I'm not going to do what Charlie Kirk, they all did. I'm not like them." No, so I didn't see anybody applauding his death in that fashion.
Well, then what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that this is when your immediate reaction to something like this is to go and politicize it and make it tribal. It's an ugly thing to see. And I'll even say this, I think it is the you know, people that are rooted in individualist philosophy, they're more resistant to this tribal tendency that we're talking about.
Bullshit.
I think collectivists are the ones that are that they get pulled into this tribal thinking very easily.
If there's anything I have seen, it is libertarian tribalism. I've been 20 years surrounded by these people, from think tank worlds, John, to international capitalists, to from economists to libertarian party activists and members, and they are very tribal. And I'm not necessarily judging whether tribal is good or bad. I think it's inevitable. So I don't know that you could say, oh, well, it's necessarily good or bad. So it feels like, John, at least to some extent, and tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like you're trying to draw some kind of moral equivalence between individualists and our tribe and people who want us dead, who say they want us dead, who would be happy, who did dance all over the grave of people like Charlie Kirk, people who call us a Nazi. We don't have to dance on their grave to suggest that they are deeply immoral and that there is something deeply, profoundly wrong and immoral about their collectivist ideology, about their tribe, and that there is no moral equivalence between our tribe and their tribe. We are clearly morally superior. Otherwise, why are we even advocating for this shit?
No, I'm not a moral object. This idea, morality is
our morality superior? Is our individualist libertarian?
That's exactly what I was saying, though, Austin. When I was saying individualists are more resistant to this.
Are we superior? Is our philosophy superior, John?
That's why I have it. That's why I embrace it.
Goddamn right.
But here's the point. We're not.
I'm a libertarian supremacist.
We are also susceptible to tribalist thinking.
That's
because
fine.
we're humans. Humans are susceptible to this. This is why we have libertarians that also fall into this. But we are resistant. And I'm saying when you have people on the right that tend to go down this road, it's because they are succumbing to their tribalist brain. Right? When you start to see them as a collective enemy. Now, I think that there's a way to tell people, no, individualism is good. See them as individuals. Don't see them as some group, some alien group. And that's often, what we're seeing more and more of. I think we're seeing more of that on the right today than we were 20 years ago.
We're not supposed to see communists as an alien group. We're not supposed to look at them as an alien group. Organized guerrilla Marxist, Maoist.
Yeah, Rob Reiner wasn't a communist. Like I'm not saying we shouldn't oppose communists. We should, and we should. It's a hateful ideology. It's a evil ideology, and it's okay to say that.
Yeah.
But when we start to treat everybody who doesn't believe in the non-aggression principle and practice it the way we do as an enemy, or we just start to look at this as Republicans good, Democrats bad, you begin to go down that road. I'll tell you this: we're seeing horseshoe theory in action right now. Like you're seeing on the right, and this is some of the things we're talking about. Like with the credit card legislation here, where you got Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders teaming up to go say, oh, we're going to put caps on what credit card companies can charge for interest. There's a lot of this populism is ascendant on the left and the right. And we're seeing all of these policies embraced by both sides, which is they're horrendous policies, but it's because we are getting it is populism. It's sort of like a madness that's taking over on both sides, because this is the end game of democracy in a sense. When you have raw democracy without constitutional constraints, it does become mob rule. And our founders understood that. Like all of this today, we champion democracy. Well, no, we are always a constitutional republic because we understood we don't want the mob making decisions for everyone else.
I am a libertarian supremacist. Call me whatever you want. Call me a tribalist. But to some extent, John, the defense of individual liberty is going to have to be a team effort. There's no one person who's going to be able to free us all from the tyranny of populism or the tyranny of democracy or the tyranny of... We're going to need to work together in groups to fight collectivism, which is quite an ironic situation. It's an ironic situation for individualists like ourselves. And I have to say, personally, just from a perspective as somebody who's had to try and build coalitions to accomplish, real world, political tactics, ground game kind of stuff, I can say libertarians are very fickle allies for trying to accomplish libertarian ends. If I had to go into war, I wouldn't pick a libertarian to have my back. You can talk about guns all day long, but at the end of the day, all I see are people who they instantly turn into the Ayn Randian objectivist, right? There's no altruism, right? There's this virtue of selfishness. Okay, fine, perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, an army of conscripts is probably better than an unorganized rabble militia of unorganized collaborationists with Islamic terror who don't want to say that they're morally superior because that might offend, that might be too tribal, John.
No, I think political coalitions are difficult to organize, and we see that. But right now we kind of have the opposite, where you talk about not wanting to offend. Nobody wants to offend the president, and this president can go do anything.
Nobody,
because what we have are a bunch of Republicans that want to say, no, we got to be team players, even when the president is buying stakes in companies, right? Like if Joe Biden was doing this, the right would be furious. But because it's Trump doing it, we're not supposed to talk about it. We got to be team players. Or when he this massive trade war that he's implemented, that's doing himself great harm. That has, by the way, it's been inflationary. It's done all these things. But when I point this out, people get pissed off at me because I'm not a team player. That I just got to get in line. I'm not going to do that. I think these are bad policies, and my job is to say that, not get on a political team.
Okay, I get that, John. It's nice to be a writer at a nonprofit institution and to have the luxury of not being prone to the forces of the marketplace that will punish you mercilessly, right? It's a good feeling to have tenure and to be able to stand behind
I don't
that
have
wall.
tenure, Austin,
Well,
but I don't have anything like that.
You have as good as tenure, John. You don't
That's
have to.
true.
You don't have to respond to the free market. You don't have to deal with people in the same scenarios. You don't do the political thing, so you don't have to worry about changing people's minds and building coalitions with people.
I'm trying to change people's minds by speaking the truth, by calling it how I see it.
You're free to both sides this thing. You're free to criticize the president without any backlash, but you don't have the skin in the game, John, so you can say these things from your ivory tower, and it doesn't harm you. It doesn't hurt you. When I talk,
You think I'm in an ivory tower? Come on.
I do, but I love you, John. I love you, but you are an ivory tower. You're free to say a lot of those things and to do those things and criticize those things. God bless it. We need people like you in doing what you're doing. But you have a blind spot, John. And
where's my blind spot again? Just help me find it.
It's the both sides thing. You don't have to both sides every single time.
I don't think I do.
Issue. You kind of do. You kind of both sides things, John. It's a blind spot. A lot of libertarians have it in your situation. Like a lot of the guys that I know from Cato and from Reason and from FEE and from AIER and all these institutions, they all are disconnected from that. It's like Brian Kaplan and his whole open border shtick. I've read all of his books. He makes lots of great points. He even disagrees with Milton Friedman on the whole, you're willing to take bullets for libertarianism that nobody else would take, right? And you see why a lot of libertarians, they walk back on their principles.
I don't agree with Kaplan on that. I'm not an open borders libertarian.
I'm just saying, he is the perfect example of what I'm talking about here, though, John. You might not be. Okay, I'll give you an out. We're friends. But Brian Kaplan, isn't that the perfect example of someone who just is completely divorced from reality? I mean, he has no incentives. He has no incentives to rethink his positions because he's entrenched in a nonprofit manner to be able to say whatever he wants to say, and that's fine. But when you're a professor, it's one thing. But when you're a street fighter like me, it's another thing entirely. John, can you see the difference?
I would characterize it this way. I think Kaplan's a very smart guy, yes. But like a lot of libertarians, he has a blind spot on immigration. I think you do have a lot of free market libertarians that look at immigration as a moral issue first. And then they do look, well, if it keeps GDP going up, they don't want to look at some of the social consequences of immigration or the fact that maybe being selective in immigration might make sense. I as you know, I live in Minnesota. We saw the Somali scandal. It's a big deal. We're talking billions of dollars in fraud because you had a bunch of people that have kind of looked at it as okay to do this. And we've seen them justifying fraud in very creative ways. But this is something, it does matter. Like having an immigration policy that makes sense, that you're bringing in people that can contribute, to an economy, you're bringing in skilled workers, versus if we're going to just let in the poorest countries in the world. And that was sort of the policy. And like I told you last week, we were saying nobody could from the UK. We had a moratorium there. We weren't going to let any people in from the UK, but we're going to bring in, from other countries. What was the thinking behind that? I don't know if we had clear thinking on that. I think all of those lead to prudent immigration policy. That's the way I see it, though. And this is what I want to go back to. That's how I'm going to call it. I got to call it like I see it. And that's all I try to do.
Okay, John. But I just feel like sometimes when we're having these conversations that you're just like, your feet are just rising, not like Brian Kaplan's or a lot of libertarians who they're like floating off into space, but that every once in a while you're just, your feet are coming off just like 6 inches up off of the ground, right? You're just floating just a little bit above us. And I just want you to just.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'll concede this. I see a lot of the opposite thinking, especially on social media. Okay, I see people that are just that side bad, my side good. I see a lot of very shallow thinking. So I do try to look at things from all perspectives. I just think that's sort of like I look at that as a responsibility to my audience and to myself to look at both sides on things a little bit.
Okay, well, I hope that we don't both sides ourselves into another terrorist attack like they had in Bondi Beach. We'll talk about that with Kurt Schlichter coming up next. John, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
No, good talking with you. You can check out our content at thedailyeconomy.org, and I'm on Substack, The Take by Jon Miltimore.
John, will we see you next week? It's Christmas week to the 22nd. Will we, or is this goodbye until after?
I will be working Monday, so I'm happy to appear with you Monday, barring some unforeseen event.
We'll do a little pugilism then, too. We appreciate you, John. You have a good one.
Hey, good being with you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Merry Christmas. There we go.
Merry Christmas to you
Merry
as well.
Christmas. That's Jon Miltimore. Mondays at Miltimore. It's always fun. We're friends. It's fun to be able to debate and argue with your friends without calling each other the N-word or a bundle of sticks. Kurt Schlichter, though, he's not going to both sides this thing. I have exclusive video of Kurt Schlichter as a child. This was Kurt as a young man.
Welcome to the suck, homos.
Here it is.
Jesus Christ. When I asked for more Marines, I meant was they're ready to hump. You sacks of shit don't look like you can play T-ball.
Wow. Oh my God.
Gutierrez. What the hell have you been eating, Gutierrez? If your fat ass holds us up for even 1 second, I'm sending your ass back to Okinawa faster than you can say chuba me chimichurri. Sir, yes, sir.
Yes.
Steinberg. You're the first of your kind in my platoon. Steinberg. You got a problem with that? Sir, no, sir. Fall back. And keep that nose tucked in before it gets caught in a tripwire.
You know we have to transfer schools, right?
Of course. Jamal! Reggie! Put your reefer out and turn off your Motown Boogie Beats. What the hell were you two clowns doing? Oh, you know, Lieutenant. Just getting a little downtime. Are you two ever not relaxing?
I'm gonna go.
It's part of our culture, sir. We love to dance or just sit around.
Lazy.
Thank you for guiding us to be more than just a couple of Division III basketball players with no real shot at the pros. You fellas tell Tyrone here how we operate. There's no shooting black talk and no jive talk.
I like this, I swear.
We're here to do one thing and one thing only. Kill those two-faced race-stopping commie bastards.
Goddamn gooks.
How did you learn all this stuff? By hanging out with my dad. Oh, it's a puppy.
Oh my God. It's a puppy story.
Nobody wants to blow up a puppy, but I'll do anything to protect my men.
I will.
That puppy will walk into that village over there and get the job done for us.
Oh, shit.
That's a nice touch.
There's no better feeling than killing the enemy.
Oh,
Nice.
God.
War is ugly.
Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Why a wild man says I'd be so proud. Laugh out loud. I'd pay double to see this. Absolutely, me too. I would pay to see a child show like that. Kurt Schlichter joining us live in less than 5 minutes. Looks like we're not even going to raise like phase 1 of the bonus content. I'm a little nervous, guys. I know it's the Christmas season, but dig deep and bless me with something. Go to the 4 Liberty shop, get yourself some Founding Flavors coffee, and we'll be right back with Kurt Schlichter from townhall.com who says, kill them all. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian. And
always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and this is the For Liberty Network. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please click the like button and follow. If it's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, you will get a notification when we go live, and that's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Well, the left had a terrible weekend. They were gearing up to use a tragedy at Brown University to demand your disarmament, but then the whole globalized, the Intifada allies that they have decided to step up, and they videotaped a violent murder spree in Bondi Beach, Australia. And suddenly the narrative collapsed, because when you see two terrorists casually hunting Jews for 10 minutes on a beach, you stop wondering why Americans cling to their guns, and you start wondering why Australians ever gave theirs up. The man joining me now just dropped a column at Town Hall that is lighting the internet on fire. It's titled, "This Weekend's Guns Tragedies Show Why You Must Buy Even More Guns." Retired Army Colonel, senior columnist, in his brand new book, Panama Red, is now out on Amazon, depicting a world where conservatives finally split off and refuse to be victims. Kurt Schlichter, welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here, and I appreciate you taking a bold stand for not being slaves who are disarmed and submissive to the ruling class of Chardonnay swilling, SSRI gobbling liberal gargoyle women.
They're already heading to the BBC. They're already heading to NPR. I'm listening to them talking about living in diversity, why it was so important for them back in the days of their community organizing before they became the head of the Labour Party or what other gay leftist party, gay race communist party that they've created over there in Australia. Talking about the need for togetherness, the need not to demonize, not to collectivize, and that maybe both sides needs to look at the problems that they have in their community. Kurt, how do you respond to the Labour Party and how they feel about you and your rights?
Well, the problem is apparently normal people objecting to being murdered by the third world savages that they imported in order to feel good about themselves. It's something like that. And I'm non-binary. Well, I am binary. I live in California half the time. I'm here now, where I can't carry a weapon, and I'm in Texas, where I carry a weapon all the time. And I'm thinking, if this little mass murder spree by jihadist scumbags occurred in Texas, those guys probably would have been ventilated very, very quickly. Here in California, you'd have to wait for the cops. Of course, they waited for the cops in Australia, and the cops cowered behind their cars instead of closing with and killing people. So we have this social contract where you give up your right to protect yourself, and the government will do it for you. And then the government, which doesn't have to do it, doesn't actually do it. So great deal. There was a time when Australia was a continent of men. Now it's a continent of shriveled wine women. I can't make people not choose to be slaves. Kurt? I can only support them when they decide to be men.
Kurt, you wrote today that the left is actually annoyed by Bondi Beach because it ruined their narrative. They wanted a white Christian Republican villain. Instead, they got a father-son jihad team. Why is it that when the wrong people commit mass murder, the media suddenly loses interest in the motive?
Because they hate normal people. And their support for gun control, disarmament is what it is it's kind of a twofold thing. It's both a class thing and a practical thing. It's a class thing because these affluent femboys and their grotesque women despise normal Americans. They look down on them. They've accomplished nothing for themselves. They're cultural trust fund babies. They inherited this society and took positions of leadership in it because they went through the credential granting institutions. But they didn't build anything, and they know they're inept, and they know they're incompetent, and they know they have no track record of achievement. So they hate normal people who actually do something with their lives. But as a practical matter, if you have a country of people without guns, you can do whatever you want to them. In England, they can arrest you for tweets. In Australia, they arrested you if you wouldn't stay in your house because of the flu. In America, while we're a long way from actually using our weapons, the fact that we do not grant the government a monopoly on violence, as a practical matter, the monopoly of violence is held by the American citizens. We have a very different mindset and a very different level of appreciation and ability to enforce the freedoms that God created.
Kurt, there's something very wrong with Western societies today where you have the United States, where we have these ties to some of these historic ties to some of these countries, the United Kingdom, Australia, whether it was World War II or current ties to NATO or, how England set up colonies here. But these nations are alien to us. We call ourselves Western civilization, but it does, and I'm not an isolationist, but it really does feel like America alone in a way that, 44 years ago I was born, but I remember being 3 or 4 years old, what it felt like when Ronald Reagan was president. There was a strange alliance that seemed to exist then and a love for the United States that doesn't exist today. What happened? And does the United States need to go it alone because we are so alien to these cultures and their liberalism, which is just, conservatism as exemplified by people like you, and libertarianism as exemplified by people like me, we're kind of the last stand on earth, it feels like. Kurt, do you feel it too?
Well, look, I was, 37 years ago, I was stationed in Germany as part of NATO. So I love when the guys start telling me how important NATO is and how bad the Russians are, even though they, never learned to defeat a motor rifle regiment. There is always, the Europeans have always looked at Americans with contempt, or tried to, because they realize they're an exhausted civilization. They've abandoned their religion. They've abandoned everything that they've built. There's nothing. What do you go to Europe for to see that's new, right? You go for something their great grandfather Fritz built. A cathedral or a castle. They've created nothing, and they create nothing, and they know it. The best of Europe died on the fields of Flanders in World War I, and the rest of them died in World War II. And what's left is an anemic, pathetic people who understand that they're nothing. And they hate themselves, but they also hate us. You can tell they hate themselves because they invite people in to their country, to overwhelm their country, who contribute nothing and want to kill and supplant them. They despise us because we're not there yet. Now, make no mistake, there are people within the United States who desperately want to destroy our own civilization to feed their personal psychodramas. But as the election of Donald Trump showed, there is a substantial number of Americans who refuse to do that. We are the last best hope. But, even overseas, there are glimmers of hope. These third parties, well, not third parties, but these dissident parties, which actually have a plurality in countries like England, France, and Germany, but are being suppressed actively by the mainstream parties because they're an absolute threat, demonstrate that those countries aren't completely ready to commit ritual suicide on an altar of climate change and multiculturalism.
We're speaking to Kurt Schlichter this morning. His new piece is out of townhall.com responding to leftist calls for more gun bans. In Australia this morning, they're already talking about making even more strict laws at preventing people from being able to gain the licensing that the people who committed this atrocity already went through the hoops for and would have qualified for under any interpretation of Australian laws. So they have these ridiculous tests where it's like, can you prove that you need it? And when you say you need it, it can't be needed for self-defense, Kurt. You have to prove that you have some kind of like farm requirement. And yet these two Islamic men who were Australian citizens, father and son, committed this attack together because, well, Kurt, you can say a lot of things about them, but at least they believe in something. It feels like
they do. They believe in their bizarre pagan religion.
So tell us about this. Yeah. How does the West fight against this? Because we have these values of the First Amendment and freedom of religion and freedom of speech. How do we prevent these kinds of ideologies coming to our country? Because they use our liberties against us. We don't get rid of our liberties, Kurt. What do we do?
Well, first of all, we don't invite people in who don't fit in our country. This is our country. We have a right to determine who comes here and determine who stays here and under what conditions. And if you listen to the left, their argument is that we have no moral right to control our own country. Well, I disagree. I hear a lot about my democracy. Well, I think the most basic part of our democracy is us having a say in what our culture is. So we're going to do that. And that's, that is a huge part of the message of the Donald Trump revolution. Well, counter-revolution is what it really was. And that's why they really hate us, because we stand up to the alleged progress that they want to make towards turning us into a third world hellhole. Well, actually, it's not really a third world hellhole. It's a partial third world hellhole. It's a feudal system where they're safe behind their walls and their security, and the rest of the people like you and me and normal people have to put up with the nightmare that comes from the world that they've made. But look, we can fight back, and we are fighting back, but we've got to accept that we have, that it's legitimate for us to control our own country. And they don't do that. They don't recognize the legitimacy of normal people. That's going to be a problem. And I'm not sure how it resolves.
Well, speaking of controlling our own country, Kurt, maybe it's time for us to have a difficult conversation about women in policing, because what I'm seeing in these stories are female police officers who are unarmed with their hands up, some of them cowering, some of them running away, some of them hiding. We've had a push to try and get a quota system of females in law enforcement. They want to have it be 30%, and 30% is the high range because the physical challenges are so monumental that it is extremely difficult in situations where there isn't a DEI requirement for women to get out on the beat and to actually police the streets in the same way that men do. When you look at that, when you look at those photographs of those female police officers with their hands in the air, Kurt, what do you want to say to the United States, to people in the United States who fought for so long to get women on the force, to get women out on the street, to get women in the beat? What do you want to say to those people?
Look, so much of leftism is about forcing people to deny what is real. Women are smaller. They're less physically imposing than men. And women tend not to be as brutally aggressive as men. In war and policing, you need brutal aggression. Now, I'm certainly not saying there are no women who are capable of being police officers. Yeah, there are some. They're the exception. Okay? You can generalize, and you should generalize, because generalization is a handy rubric for analyzing a problem. We are not required to imagine the Hollywood image that I always love of the 110-pound girl beating the crap out of the 300-pound thug through her magical karate. Hi-ya! You know? It's stupid. And I think leftism has demanded that we ignore things. Everything from the racial demographics of crime to the ability of women to perform physically the same as men, to the fact that men can't become women through the power of wanting and perversion. And I think we're at the point, and particularly young people, where they're just like, no, we're not doing that anymore. It's strange that you become a radical if you embrace the truth and the facts, but that's what's happening, and that's what needs to happen. Women aren't worse because they're not generally as good police officers or soldiers as men. That doesn't make them bad. They're women. Women have generalized functions in society, as do men. Generally, women, are nurturers. Generally, men create and destroy. It generally happens. Yes, I know there are exceptions. I'm sure, what's her name? Ronda Rousey, the MMA girl. I'm sure she could kick my butt. But there aren't a lot of women out there who can kick a 220-pound man's butt. That's just a fact. It doesn't make them bad. It just is. And we should embrace truth. If you don't embrace truth, you have built your foundation upon sand, and it's inevitably going to collapse.
By the way, if you want to beat Ronda Rousey, she's got a terrible striking game, but she is a judo queen, so just don't let her get within throw distance, and you'll be fine.
I'm not messing with her. Okay. I'm not stupid. I may be male, but I'm not a dummy.
I'm speaking to Kurt Schlichter this morning on the Wake Up America show. We're talking about his column over at townhall.com. We're talking about civilizational suicide, suicidal empathy. This is what God sought. And I played a clip of Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talking about this. And even Joe Rogan was kind of like not wanting to approach the subject with Elon. But Elon kept bringing it back to this concept of suicidal empathy, this idea that we import these people and then we disarm our own citizens. This is a suicidal empathy.
Well, look, Joe Rogan is an interesting case because he demonstrates one of the weaknesses that's exploited by Americans. Now, he's a physically tough guy, probably kick my butt, probably kick Ronda Rousey's butt. But he's a nice guy. He doesn't want to hurt somebody. He doesn't want to tell somebody no. He doesn't want to say, hey, if your dream is to be a cop, you should be able to be a cop. He's actually, that's one of the best things about Americans. We don't want to limit people. We don't want to gratuitously hurt or embarrass or humiliate people. But sometimes you have to be clear and you have to be honest, even if it's painful. And, to the extent it's painful to say, maybe we shouldn't have 105-pound women as cops. And because, I'm sure there's some 105-pound women out there who dream of being cops, but it's just not a good idea. So maybe we shouldn't do it.
Kurt, are there any?
And we have to be tough enough to draw that line.
Agreed. Kurt, are there any women cops in your new book, Panama Red, on Amazon.com right now?
No, but there is a very scary female villain who does not get by through magic, but gets by through cunning, guile, and technical skills, which is fine because it's true. It's true, Austin. And the book, while it takes place in America split into red and blue and hops around the globe, and there's lots of shooting, and I'm sure people tell me my gun stuff is all wrong. That's one of my favorite fallouts from all my books. You got this gun wrong. It is a lot of fun. It's very interesting, and it has a formidable female villain. But you know what? There have been formidable female villains throughout history.
For sure, like the Queen from Alien in the movie Sigourney Weaver.
I would not mess with Elizabeth I. I don't know if she's a villain, but you know what I'm saying.
No, Kurt, your new book, Panama Red, is out. I mean, you've been so prolific. Congratulations, by the way, on your latest release.
Thank you.
I have a lot. My buddy Joe Trotter is like always talking about your books. He gets every single one of them. So that's what I'm getting him for Christmas. The newest copy of Panama Red.
It's a lot of fun. I wanted it has a conservative message, but it doesn't have to be medicine, right? And it doesn't have to be, sickly sweet, and it doesn't have to be badly done. So much of messaging media is crap. And again, got to tell the truth. Write something you'd want to read. That was my idea. And Panama Red's the 9th book in the People's Republic series. They've all been bestsellers. This one's the #1 techno thriller or political thriller on Amazon right now. You guys check out Panama Red. You'll have a good time.
Panama Red available on Amazon.com. Hey, Kurt, you know what we say in our house? Merry Christmas.
What do you say? Well, Happy Kwanzaa, too. We want to make sure.
And Happy Hanukkah.
We got to be diverse. Merry Christmas.
We appreciate you, bud.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around this morning. Hope you enjoyed our interview there with Kurt Schlichter, whose column over at townhall.com is blowing up this morning. Make sure that you give it a read. Thank you to Kurt Schlichter. If you haven't already, click the like button. Follow as well. So looking at the numbers this morning, looks like we won't raise the bonus content phase 1. First time in a long time. But that's okay. When viewership goes down with these kinds of, even though there's these big news stories, a lot of people are tuning out from political news talk and coverage like this. And you know what? I totally get it. I understand. I do thank everybody who went to the Grift Shop this morning and made purchases. Andy Opperman, as always, for the clutch. Thank you for your generous donations. Quest Fanning, Drew Van Runkle gifted a sub. Thank you, everybody, so much. Now is the winter of our discontent. This is like the challenge. This is the most challenging time of the year for Stephanie and myself when the bills get high, and then after the Christmas crunch, all of the purchases and things like that go away. So we saved a little bit of money, so it should get us through the cold winter. But if you want to help support the Wake Up America show and ensure that we will be on 5 days a week in January, February, March, all of 2026, please do finish up some of that last minute Christmas shopping. We do have quick ship items like at Amazon.com. If you want to get something within 2 days and have it by Christmas morning, you can, of course, buy our children's books. Javier Milei, the Afuera President, is our most recent book. We have that in English and in Spanish, as well as our Grover the Nope President book that we wrote this year to share people with one of the lives of one of our least talked about but most libertarian presidents. Grover the Nope President is available at Amazon.com. So if you are looking for that last minute Christmas gift for a little one in your life, I recommend that you have them check out Grover the Nope President right there. Beautifully illustrated book. Well, I say illustrated. We can't say illustrated, can we? Because honestly, we did use AI, so. But don't get it twisted, because it still takes a lot of work. We have to do a lot of work to make sure that we finally get the right image to include in there. So you got to generate these images over and over and over and still Photoshop them at the end. But they are beautiful images, and what's really important, I think, is the story, because the story of Grover Cleveland and his life is really one of those untold hero stories. When other countries had fights far, far away, Grover didn't want America to fight too. He said nope to wars and chose peace instead. Grover, the Nope President. You can pair that with our book, Calvin, the Coolest President. Calvin, the Coolest President is also available at Amazon.com, and you can get that delivered within 2 days. So order them all. Get Calvin, the Coolest President, Grover, the Nope President, and Milei, the Afuera President, available right now. Teach your kids about the presidents who loved liberty. There were a few, you know, and it's a conspiracy against them is why they aren't talked about more in schools. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in today. Please do click the like button before you leave. Click the follow button if today was your first time. We are on all this week, just FYI, but we are going to be taking some days off. So we will be off the 24th and the 25th, back Friday the 26th. We will not be here the week after Christmas. So from the 29th through the 2nd, Stephanie and I are out. So we're taking the week after Christmas off. We're taking 2 days off for Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We'll do a Freedom Family Friday, the 26th. And then the 29th through the 2nd, we're having our Stephanie and I are having a little private vacation. So we're going to be gone that whole week. So we'll be back the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and then we'll be back in the new year. And a happy new year. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. As you exit through the Grift Shop, here's what I recommend that you do today. If you visit forlibertyshop.com, get our coffee bundle. I can't promise that it'll be there by Christmas, but our coffee does ship pretty fast. So my recommendation to you is that you check out, if you're not into children's books, then when you go to forlibertyshop.com, check out our Liberty bundles. Wow, abandoned, unloved, says Kermode Bear. I know, right? Yeah, sorry. He hates us. You know me, I don't take many days off. I could if I wanted to, but I don't, because I love you. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa's fake and gay. We'll be back tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Derek got his coffee bundle. Yeah. Enjoy it, man. Hope you love it.